So my name's James Krause. I'm the owner of Rivers to Reef in Davis, California. I've been running the business for 6 years now almost. I'm originally from Southern California, East LA. I developed my fondness for fish there with my uncle. He kept tons of saltwater tanks, and that was probably when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and fell in love, moved up to Davis to go to school at UC Davis. I graduated with a degree in biosci with emphasis in marine biology, minor in aquaculture. I've been working with water or fish pretty much since I would say probably 2002.
Can you describe your very first setup? Your first fish?
My very first setup was when I was a little kid. I can't remember the age. I still have the tank though. It's a 10-gallon tank with kind of like a oak trim, beat up silicone. And it was, I had a Plecostomus, I remember, and like 5 Pictus catfish. I don't know why. It was my dad and I's first adventure into that. And of course, Pictus cats got ick, and then it was just all chaos and anarchy from there in the 10-gallon tank. So that's from what I remember, but it was a long time ago now. That was over 20 years ago.
Can you describe the community from before then and then now, perhaps?
Oh, like the actual...
From the clubs to anything fish related?
Well, keeping tanks back then, I mean, your filtration was really different. Hang on the backs weren't really a big thing back then. It was all under gravel filter. And now we've moved into hang on the backs. Now I would say we've even kind of advanced past hang on the backs. There's more advanced hang on the back filters in terms of the community. Now they have built-in like skimmers and stuff like that on them, which is kind of neat. Canister filters too. Are really popular now. So I mean, keeping fish I would say is way easier nowadays than how it was back in the day. My grandma, from what I've been told, actually kept fish in the glass tanks that were held together with like tar and steel, and she kept neon tetra. She loved to keep neons. So back in then I imagine that was pretty tough because I'm pretty sure they were wild caught.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I guess kind of describe how this business started.
The business started, I've always wanted to actually to run an aquarium store. I don't know why. Now that I'm doing it, I don't know why. When I started it, what I wanted to do, or what I was hoping to do, was make everyone love fish the same way that I do. Spread, you know, the good word about fish and how they're a great pet to keep. How if you have allergies, you know, you're not going to be allergic. Fish don't pee on the carpet. They don't chew up things. Fish are great. And especially for kids, you know, you get to teach them all kinds of science. You get chemistry, you get engineering, and it's so much fun. It's like a puzzle that you get to build and watch grow. And I think that was my initial desire for the store. I still have that desire, you know, people come in, I let them know what they're getting into and how they should go about doing things. Sometimes they go to other stores after I tell them because they don't want to hear it from me, but I mean that's okay. You know, I run my business. I try to be highly reputable. You know, I let everyone know what they're getting into. Sometimes I don't sell goldfish for people that want to put them in a bowl. That's just me, but you know, other stores I know will do it for them.
And you've been doing this for how many years now?
The store's been open for about 6 years now.
And then kind of describe why you're so passionate about fish, just in general.
I feel like they're like the underdog, you know, they're not the charismatic megafauna that you have. They're not a panda or a lion or an elephant. They're not even like a whale, you know, or a dolphin, you know, they're not snuggly. So I think that's why my whole entire life I've always been like, you know, rooting for the underdog kind of thing. So to try and get people to love fish, you know, I was part of the American Fishery Society when I was on campus. My wife was president for a while too, and you know, we just love taking the Girl Scouts out and seining Puda Creek and showing them. And girls are so great when they're young because you can hand them fish and they love it. They don't think they're gross or slimy or disgusting or anything like that at that point. And you know, I'm hoping that, you know, that kind of outreach we can get kids to fall in love with, you know, and that was kind of my hope for when I was at the Aquarium Society when I was president, to make kids fall in love with fish, because they're the people we have to pass our passion to. And without kids being into it, then it's going to be hard to keep this hobby alive and thriving.
Kind of describe the store for someone who hasn't been here, maybe some things that are different, or even things or events perhaps that is associated with this shop.
So I run everything still on sponge filter, even though we've gotten bigger and have more stuff. I just refuse to go away from it because I don't like the cross-contamination aspect of running things on a singular sump. And I kind of feel like that kind of sets us apart from other stores. I have probably over 100 tanks now, and it's all separate, all on sponge. I have a net bucket that we sterilize, so every net gets sterilized in between tanks. It's kind of just from my experience, in school and stuff like that as well. So I kind of carry that scientific background to the hobby. So it's not, I can tell people how and why something would work instead of just say, oh, I read it on the internet or something like that. And when people come in, I hope that they kind of expect that from us. We tell them why things are and how things are, not just do this because. And we can kind of debunk some stuff too that people read online. Sometimes the internet just helps people become dangerous when it comes to taking care of fish. And I hope to kind of put people's mind at ease, make it a little bit more simple for them. And hopefully when you come to my shop, I mean, you'll get that. You'll get that vibe where we're never going to talk down to you. We're never going to be high and mighty about everything. We're going to, lay it out for you in the simplest terms that we can go, and hope that you gain a lot of information, and you can take that and maybe go home and do more research and come back to us with more questions, and we'll answer those as well.
So you just answered a lot of questions. So I guess just to kind of reiterate, any advice for people that are kind of hesitant or maybe just interested? What would be like the first step for them? Or
what I always tell people, the first thing when you're coming in to look for a tank, always have an idea where you're going to put the tank first. And always get the biggest tank you can fit and afford. Never go for a small tank because you think it's going to be easier. The bigger tanks are easier to keep than the smaller tanks, and I can't emphasize that enough. People all the time want to go for like a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon. I say the perfect size starter tank is at least a 20-gallon. It gives you room to make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. It happens to all of us. I don't think a single person here hasn't made a mistake in their tank and gotten their fish sick, or killed fish because they forgot to do something. And a 20-gallon tank helps absorb those mistakes and prevents that from happening. I mean, and a 55-gallon is like a dream tank. You can get lots of stuff in there, lots of fun stuff. But 20s are good too.
And I noticed that you've been trying to get locally bred fish here. Where are you at with that right now?
Jake Montgomery, he is a member also. I know he brings in some stuff to the Aquarium Society. I've been working with Jake. We do our angels from Jake. We do our bushy noses from Jake. Mm-hmm. We've been trying to breed angels here. I've bred some, but it's kind of tough because I'm trying to run this whole entire front end of stuff. We try to breed bushy noses. I have some growing out right now. We love bushy nose plecos here. It's our favorite pleco. It doesn't get giant like those, the regular common pleco. So no tank busting, no having to take back a 18-inch pleco from people in the future. I just, and they have more personality. I feel they're out and about during the daytime. And ideally, I would love a facility that I can actually breed fish to reduce our impact on wild populations. And not only that, but just transporting fish, it requires so much fossil fuel. You're talking about lots of weight because you're transporting water. And then you have dealing with all the stress of being shipped either overseas or even just up from like Southern California or Florida. That's a lot of stress on fish. So ideally I would breed more sensitive species here that are more ick prone. But right now I'm nowhere close. I have some space in the back, which I'm hoping to convert eventually to doing something like that. But right now it's tough to find the time.
Okay. And are you trying to find local breeders for saltwater fish as well?
Saltwater fish can be really tough because a lot of them have a pelagic spawning period where literally the fry just float around. I know that, so what I enjoy doing though is finding, not necessarily local breeders, but finding actual marine fish that are bred in captivity. not just captive raised, because a lot of people mistake captive raised for captive bred. Those are two different things. Captive raised means that they caught them when they're tiny out in the wild, and then they brought them in and they raised them up to a bigger size. I love captive bred fish. Our clowns are captive bred. I try and get, anytime I see captive bred anything, I like to get those fish in. They're hardier, they eat pellets, more disease resistant, not depleting wild stocks. And you know, it might cost a little bit more, but I feel it's worth it.
Awesome. I guess in the process of like the hobby, what do you enjoy the most?
What do I enjoy most? Well, my employees and I, we all miss setting tanks up, because you know, all of our tanks are kind of set up and established, and once you're at that point, it's kind of hard to tinker a lot. But setting up, helping a customer set up a new tank, you know, designing it from the top to the bottom is fun for us. You know, we help guide customers in terms of fish, but you know, sometimes we'll go through elaborate setups and they'll just end up getting guppies or something like that, which is fine, you know. But yeah, setting up tanks is really fun, helping people start off with that blank canvas and then developing it into like a rich picture.
Are there any other unique things or events in the store?
I used to try and do a Davis Aquarium Society, but I ran out of time to do that. I would like to try and start it up again maybe some other time, but we used to have like talks by like, actually my customers would come in and do a presentation. I think our most popular one was a shrimp presentation. You guys just had one of those. And I think we had like 30 or 40 people in the store. I was really shocked actually that so many people came in to get that talk. But you know, I would love to put on like clinics and stuff like that, and like how-tos. That would be awesome if I can find time to do that, maybe on Sundays or something like that after the store closes. But right now I work like 12-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week, so it's kind of hard to get more stuff in.
Would you mind telling us a few specific kind of fish or shrimp that you would recommend for the people?
So I mean, I feel like the natural progression of a fish keeper is you start off your tank and you get like guppies or community fish, like, you know, tetra, and then you go into this phase where you want big fish like cichlids. You know, you get like the gateway drug, you get like a Bolivian ram or something like that. You put that in your community tank, and then you fall in love with cichlids and their personality. And then you switch it up and you get Oscars, and you get like big fish, and then your big fish live forever. You know, this is my personal progression anyway. And then I had Oscars that were like 12, 15 years old. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so tired of these Oscars. But you know, they're part of the family now at that age. But once they finally passed, I was like, all right, I'm doing community fish again. So I did community fish again, and it's kind of fun because back when I started keeping the community fish, you know, they're kind of just standard like neons and stuff like that. Black skirts, Bristellas, you know, that fare, you know, simple fare. And then I kept big fish for such a long time that I was introduced to a bunch of new community fish when I started to do community fish again. And I fell like in love with like roseline sharks or denizen barbs and, you know, stuff like that. I've always loved clown loaches. Clown loaches have always been one of my favorites also, in addition to prehistoric fish. I would love to try and breed clownfish. That's kind of like one of my dream aspirations, is to try and breed those in captivity, because those are wild caught still.